Hello and welcome to Zelda Theory. Breath of the Wild broke the Zelda franchise wide open, perfecting many existing mechanics and introducing a ton of new ones. But with the immense number of changes made to the games, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild actually removed a ton of the series staples and items. In most cases, these mechanics are relics of the past, making sense in their own game but not having much use in the new Hyrule. However, some could make the game's sequel even more fun. As Link explores Hyrule, various older game mechanics could come in handy. In today's video, I'd like to talk about some of the best choices for the things that existed in older Zelda games, but could make for a great addition to the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Now, fans were outraged to learn that you really couldn't pet the dogs that appeared at various stables around Hyrule when Breath of the Wild first released. They're so cute, and they're begging for affection from Link. You can feed them, but it's just not the same. In Twilight Princess, not only could you pet the dogs, but you can pick them up and carry them around. It's too cute for words. It needs to be added in Breath of the Wild too. These dogs work hard to find treasure for Link, so the least he could do is give them a little pat on the head. One of the best features unique to the adorable and extremely underrated Minish Cap is the KINSTONE fusions. Link can find pieces of small runestones that have certain edges on one side. Now, if he finds someone with the matching edge, they can fuse the kinstones together. This fusion causes certain things to happen in the overworld and grants items or rupees to Link. Now, these little fusions help Link form stronger relationships with the NPCs around Hyrule, and it could potentially do the same in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. The new Hyrule has no shortage of fun citizens, and a kinstone system would encourage interaction with them. One of the few critiques of Breath of the Wild was its lack of enemy variety. Aside from a slight few varying colors of a handful of enemies, there isn't much diversity in Ganon's army like there has been in past Zelda games. Now, in some of the older games like Wind Waker, each dungeon has an almost entirely new set of enemies. I really think that Breath of the Wild 2 needs to rectify this problem, or the fanbase might be severely disappointed. There are 100 of enemies that have been seen in older games, and any number of them would be great in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Let me know in the comments what enemies you'd like to see in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Now, I talked about this slightly in my previous Zelda video. The ability to transform has long been featured in the Zelda franchise in a variety of capacities. There's the mask transformations from Majora's Mask that grants Link new powers, the Force transformation into Wolf Link in one of the best Zelda games of all time, Twilight Princess, and the wall merging mechanic of Link between worlds, and so much more. Now, it's unlikely that a mechanic like this should be added in Breath of the Wild 2, but it could provide some variety to Link's arsenal beyond his Sheikah Slate tools. What Link could transform into is entirely up to the imagination of the individual, but the possibilities are endless here. Now, fast traveling is always up for debate in open world games. On the pro-fast traveling side is the fact that you don't have to waste so much time across huge maps. Proponents of taking the long way argue that you will miss a ton of the game's charm and secrets if you fast travel anywhere. There is some slight truth to this. Now, why can we not have the best of both worlds? Taking inspiration from the fantastic soaring mechanic in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Link could have some sort of way to fly across Hyrule. This would allow you to see everything without having to walk for hours or deal with the finicky Master Cycle DLC thing. The LOFTWINGS from Skyward Sword could be the perfect solution to this. Now, almost every Zelda game has featured some type of musical instrument, from the iconic Ocarina of Time to the Goddess's Harp of Skyward Sword, along with many, many more instruments in the Zelda series. Music always seems to have a central role in the world of Zelda until Breath of the Wild. Music is just so important to Zelda that it actually inspired its own game called Cadence of Hyrule. This is actually one of the main reasons why I love Zelda so much. The music is just amazing. Now, the lack of an instrument is not too detrimental to Breath of the Wild in reality, but honestly, the addition of one could add that little something extra, that spiciness that we're looking for. An instrument is often used for puzzle solving, and this could be easily implemented into the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Now, from the sinking lure in Ocarina of Time to the side-scrolling fish of Link's Awakening, and even arguably the treasure grappling hook of Wind Waker's King of Red Lions, fishing has long been present in the Zelda franchise. Now, with the presence of larger bodies of water and fish themselves, Why was fishing not a thing in Breath of the Wild? Of course, one can quote-unquote fish with bombs, or by simply going up to fish and clicking on them. However, it's not the same as the days of old, where Link was granted a fishing rod with which to find himself a winning prize. I always had fun fishing in the Zelda games, particularly in Twilight Princess. I really enjoyed that. Speaking of insane staples in the Zelda series, the hookshot, or I guess you could say the claw shot or the long shot, is noticeably absent from Breath of the Wild. Now, this item was first introduced in A Link to the Past, allowing Link to grapple to various surfaces and objects, and can even be used to damage or stun enemies. This item is so iconic that it is part of Link's arsenal in the Super Smash Bros. Series. Now, Nintendo obviously left the hookshot out of Breath of the Wild to focus more on the manual exploration. You know, the climbing, the jumping, and working to get where you need to go. However, the hookshot's addition in the sequel to Breath of the Wild would be a welcomed one, and I'm sure we all can agree with this. Now, it might be a stretch of the imagination to picture a dark world being added to Breath of the Wild, but hear me out here. It's really not impossible to visualize. Many Zelda games have featured some variation of an alternate world, from the dark world of A Link to the Past to the Twilight Realm in Twilight Princess. Even if a game doesn't feature a dark variant of its world, it can feature some quote-unquote second world, like adult Link's life in Ocarina of Time, or being shrunk in the Minish Cap. Now, Breath of the Wild 2 could implement something like the Silent Realm trials that are found in Skyward Sword, or temporary visits to another dimension for a shorter, more difficult challenge. Finally, the bodies of water in Breath of the Wild come in all shapes and sizes in the Hyrule of Breath of the Wild. Now, despite being able to swim across them, dash up waterfalls, catch the fish, and freeze the water, Link is really never able to actually dip his head beneath the surface. Now, similarly to A Link to the Past and Wind Waker, Link is only able to swim across the top of the water. This removes a ton of potential underwater dungeons, treasure hunting, and more. Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, and even Twilight Princess all allow for underwater exploration and various items that aid in it, like the Iron Boots and the Zora armor. Perhaps Breath of the Wild 2 will join these older games in letting Link swim deeper than a small child with their water wings on. So hey, my fellow Zelda fans, if you found value here today, be sure to click on the playlist coming up on the screen here in a few to watch another Zelda video. Remember to subscribe if you are new here for more Zelda content, and I will see you guys over on another video.